I do the live Q&A every Wednesday night. So hopefully we'll have some people on tonight. Because of the platform that we use, which now I can read chats, but your questions, it comes through as Facebook users. So please put your name and where you're from so that I can enter you into the drawing for the free training treats. So everybody that gets on tonight, whether you ask a question or not, you get entered into a drawing for a free bag of the flavor of your choice. So you can do chicken, beef liver, rabbit. Has anybody tried the new rabbit? My dogs love them. And my favorite is salmon. I use the salmon treats all the time just because I use them for like high value training treats. And I have yet to find a client who doesn't love the salmon. And when I say client, I'm talking about the dogs. But the owners also love the fact that their dogs love the treats. So every time I go to somebody's house, they're like, oh, what kind of treats do you use? So I just show them the treats. Hey, Kathy, I haven't seen you in a while. So Kathy is also from Utah. Kathy, can you believe I still have not made it down to the valley? I've been so busy up here that all of my Salt Lake clients I've had to do via Zoom because I just never have time to go down. I do sometimes come down on Sunday to see my mom, but I don't train on Sunday. So that's why I have not reached out to you to come down. But hopefully all your training and everything's going well. Victoria from Phoenix. So if you see me looking away, I'm just writing your names down so that I can enter you. Victoria, I actually lived in Arizona for 2 years. I went to school there and it was so much fun. I don't know if they still do this, so I'm telling my age, but back when I was there, they used to do the Friday night dances at ASU. So every Friday night, $1. You could go dancing for $1. And because it's Arizona, we did it all year long. You could do it outside. It was never too cold. Funnest time ever. And we also used to go dancing at the Devil House. And I don't even know if that still is in existence, but we used to go there too. That was one of our fun places. So yeah, unfortunately, great social life at ASU, but it was a little bit too hot for me. So once I graduated college, I booked it on back to Utah because I had to have my mountains and snow and all that stuff. Okay, so Karen from Connecticut. Oh, whoops. I kind of need somebody to be here writing for me. Kayla from Arizona. From Gilbert. So I met my husband in Arizona. And we came back to Utah for a time, and then we were going to go back, and we actually looked at places in Gilbert because I didn't want to live in Phoenix. So, but when it came down to it, I just couldn't bring myself to move back because I love the mountains too much. So, okay, Pat from Pennsylvania. It's nice to see so many people out. Amber from Ohio. Did you guys all catch, oh, Singapore. Wow. What time is it in Singapore? Some of you guys are here like in the middle of the night or the next day. South Carolina. So I have some good friends that just moved from Utah to South Carolina for work. So hopefully I will be able to go visit them. Okay. How to halt male marking indoors. Our 2-year-old potty trained neutered male pug is a nuisance in the house. So that's a good question. Sometimes when we think dogs are like, or when they're having accidents, it can be a couple of things. Have you had your pug since he was a puppy? Because sometimes it can be a behavioral thing. Sometimes it can be that we think a dog's potty trained and they're not totally potty trained yet. So, sorry, I'm trying to scroll back up because this is going so fast. What I do is if I have a dog that is starting to revert and have accidents, I will kind of go back to doing some potty training again. So if I can't supervise, they get crated or I tether them to me. And then as soon as I catch them starting to go, then I'll immediately interrupt, take them outside. And then the important thing is when you take them outside and when they start to lift their leg or they start to squat, you want to praise them. And you're actually not praising them for going potty because the act of like relieving yourself is the reinforcer, but for choosing to go outside. So, I would try that. If it continues, you might want to, see your vet, make sure that nothing medically is going on. Sometimes around the age, anywhere between 18 months and 2 to 3 years, we see behavioral issues start to creep in. So sometimes we need to just go back and do some remedial training. And sometimes when my dogs have had accidents, it's actually my fault because I didn't take them out like soon enough or frequent enough, or I have a dog door and sometimes I have closed the dog door and forgot to open it back up. So, I mean, sometimes it's my fault, but I would just go back and just be really diligent about taking your dog out frequently enough, first thing in the morning, half hour after eating, after a nap. Another good thing is if you can tether the dog to you so that you can catch him going. And then also make sure that you're using a really good enzymatic cleaner to clean up and get the odor out so that they don't keep going in that same spot. Kathy, how do you get your puppy to obey when you don't have treats? That's a great question. I'm actually dealing with that with Jade right now. So you have to use something else that's really reinforcing. So luckily with my dogs, they love praise and they love affection. So if I don't have treats like okay, yesterday I let Jade out of the car. She usually goes around to the front of the house or the side of the house to sniff, but then she comes back. Well, this time she didn't come back, so I went around and she wasn't there. So I thought, oh great, she's gone over to the neighbors. So I whistled for her because remember, you don't say the word come if you're not 100% sure that your dog's going to do it. So I whistled and she comes booking around, running right for me, and I didn't have treats. So I'm like, oh, Jade, yay, what a good girl. And I just probably acted like an idiot in front of anybody who was driving by. But I wanted to make sure that she was knew she was a really good girl. So if your dog is like not doing it when you don't have treats, then I would go back and use treats, but intermittently. So before, I don't ever totally go away from having treats. I'm always going to treat my dogs. So I will always use that as a reinforcer. But sometimes if I don't want to treat for every single one, then I'll start to treat for like the fastest sit or the longest stay or the longest eye contact, things like that. And when I'm in a new environment, so like with Jade, who's in service dog training, now we're starting to practice in grocery stores and different stores. And so I will stick some treats in my pocket so that if we're practicing walking down the dog food aisle where I know she's going to want to smell every little thing, I make sure that I have treats so that if she does focus on me, I can reward her. So yeah, if you don't have treats, try to find anything else that is a reinforcer for your dog. So lots of praise. You know, you can throw a ball, you can play tug, give them lots of affection. So anything that's rewarding for the dog can be a reinforcer. So that's a really great question. Anita, let me write you down really quick. I'm going to write a couple more names down and then I'll answer some more questions. Oh, it's 8 a.m. in Singapore. The next day, or is it, so today's Wednesday, is it 8 a.m. Wednesday or Thursday? Okay, Christy, I've probably told you this before, but Nashville is on my bucket list to go visit. Really good friend of mine was able to retire, and he is now in Nashville working as a songwriter. So living the dream. So hopefully someday I'll get to go visit him. Okay. I have an 8-month-old Australian Shepherd who freaks out over the blow dryer. She will bite, bark, and try to get away. So I've been not blow drying her. I've tried sitting with her in the bathroom and turning it on and slowly letting it hit her first lightly, and she'll snarl and nip at it. Okay, so that's a good question. Sometimes at the groomer, I've seen where they put them in a crate and they have like a blow dryer that kind of angles in and kind of can blow the dog without them blowing it. Some dogs hate the blow dryer. I've had one dog in my life love the blow dryer. I don't know what it was, but if he could hear me blow drying my hair, he would come in and he loved me to blow him. That rarely happens. None of my dogs now love the blow dryer. So what I would do first is get your dog used to it without turning it on. So let's see, what can I use? Okay, so my Kong Wobbler, this is going to be the blow dryer. So what I would do is bring out the blow dryer, and that predicts a treat, and then put them both behind your back. And you can do this with anything your dog is afraid of. So nail clippers, the nail grinders, the blow dryer, anything. So blow dryer predicts treat, they both go behind your back. And I would do that over and over until your dog sees the blow dryer and starts kind of wagging his tail, thinking, oh yeah, when I see the blow dryer, that means treat's coming. And then like let him smell it, give him a treat. You can set it down on the floor, let him smell it, give him a treat. Then I would not blow it on him, but just like turn it like on, off, treat, on, off, treat, and do that several times. And then turn it on, and while it's on, treat, 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 turn it off, treat, stop. So that you're doing that classical conditioning. So the sound of the blow dryer equals treats, the blow dryer goes off, the treat stop. And I would do that all with the blow dryer away from the dog, so he's not actually getting blown by it. Then once he's good with that, then I would start with it really far away and turn it on, and just like kind of blow it in her direction, treat, and then turn it away, turn it off. And so start far away to where she can like barely feel it, and then treat while you're doing it, and then turn it off and stop. So you actually take the whole behavior of, or the whole task of blow drying her, and you break it into little teeny pieces, where first it's just the blow dryer predicts treats, and then the sound, on, off, and then on, longer, treat, 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 off. And then start from a distance, whatever distance you have to be to where it doesn't freak out the dog. The other thing too is if your dog wants to back away, let her back away. So don't force her there. You can also, we do this a lot with nail trims, get a Frisbee or a paper plate and rub peanut butter on it. And you can like stick it to the wall or the side of the tub and let her lick that while you're, again, start from a distance and just barely blow dry her while she's licking the peanut butter. So she has something else to do. She's focusing on something else. And that's a really good comment about you don't want to damage that trust. That's why we always want to give the dog the chance to opt out. Today, I actually did a video that I've been trying to do for weeks now on muzzle training for Pupford. So hopefully you will see that soon. I may redo it. But one of the things that I showed with Maddie is if she wanted to back out of the muzzle, I always let her. If she pawed at it, I took it away. And then when I put it back, she would willingly put her nose in it. So if you give the dog the option to say, oh, I don't like that, then if they know that they have the option to back away, then a lot of times they're more willing to then come forward and be like, okay, if I don't like it, I can move away. If we force them, then we actually can make them fearful of it and hate it. So it's kind of like if we were strapped down in a dentist chair and forced to have our teeth drilled on. A lot of people hate the dentist, but my dentist always says, okay, if you feel anything, raise your hand and I'll stop. So it's kind of the same thing. We let the dog say, oop, if I don't like that, then I can back away. So just start really slow and start like just blow drying her from a distance to where she barely feels it, and then get closer, closer, closer. And try doing the peanut butter on the side of the tub or on the wall or something. My dog keeps dumping her food bowl. How can I stop it? What do you mean by dumping? You mean like tipping over her food bowl? Some dogs, I've had dogs before, like they'll take a big mouthful and then they'll drop it on the floor and then eat it from the floor. I don't really know why they do that. I just kind of let them do it because it doesn't really hurt anything. You might try a different bowl. Some dogs don't like the sound or the feel of like the stainless steel bowl. So you might try a plastic bowl. You could try a slow feeder. Do I have one here? I do. It's over there. I can get it if you want. But it's kind of like a swirl thing, and you can put the food in there, and then it kind of slows the dog down, but it's kind of more of a game. So you could try feeding, your dog in a snuffle mat. I feed Jade in a snuffle mat just because she eats so fast, and then she wants to go eat her sister's food. You could try that. So try feeding your dog on something different and see if that makes a difference. So snuffle mat, slow feeder, cupcake tin, like putting it in different things like that. And it could be a game to your dog, like dumping it out. If you just have one dog, you could always just put their food like on a rug, and it kind of is the same as feeding out of a snuffle mat. So they kind of have to use their nose to find their food in the rug. So you could try that as well. Let's see. I'm trying to scroll this up. It's not working. How do you get your 4-month-old puppy to stop biting and breaking skin? Okay, that's a really good question. Oh, there we go. Okay, so puppies explore the world with their mouth. And they're probably around 4 months old, they're teething. So it's going to be really normal for them to bite and chew. What I do, and I learned this from another trainer, and I think it's brilliant. It's what we call the 3-strike bite rule. So The first time your dog bites skin, you redirect them. You can do like the ouch, too hard, and then redirect them to a toy. So for dogs that are teething, I like rope toys because they can really sink their teeth into it. The new flirt poles that Pupford has out, one of the ends is a toy and the other one's a little rope thing. I like those because the puppies can sink their teeth into it. So redirect your dog first to a toy. If your dog goes right back to biting you, then you calmly pick them up, put them in the crate with a toy. So we don't want to create a negative association with the crate. So we put them in there with a toy to chew on for 1 minute and let them kind of chill out. Then let them out. If they go back to biting you again, then you calmly pick them up. They go back in the crate, cover the crate, and it's a timeout for a while because they probably need to decompress. A lot of times if they're like overactively biting, sometimes they just need a nap or they need to sleep. So with puppies, it is a lot of it's consistency and constantly redirecting. One thing that I have started doing with some of my puppy clients, because they'll get so worked up, they'll just keep coming back and coming back and coming back and wanting to bite. And so I redirect them to a snuffle mat because it redirects their nose, their brain, gives them something to do. Then they're not chewing on me. And it's a really good enrichment activity for them to do. So if you don't have a snuffle mat, sometimes I've just taken a handful of treats and thrown them onto the floor or the carpet and I say, go hunt. And so I give them something else to do that redirects them. So you do have to constantly redirect them and like, oh, it's not okay to chew on me. Maybe give them a timeout, redirect, things like that. Okay, Karen, how do you get a 2-year-old from pulling on leash? We have tried different leashes, easy walk, but she continues to pull. I actually walk a client's dog and I'm dealing with the same thing. So there's a few different things that you can do with pulling. One is the stop and go game. And I realize that one takes a long time and it's frustrating because basically tight leash means we stop and I wait for the dog to turn back and look at me like, why are we not going anywhere? And then as soon as we have a loose leash, we go again. But the first dog I ever did that with, it took probably an hour to go 100 feet. So the dogs do finally learn tight leash means we don't go anywhere. Loose leash means we do. The other one that you can do is change direction. So if your dog starts, so I have my helper dog here. So let's say that we have a leash and as soon as, leash is this way, as soon as he starts to pull, I change direction and go the other way. And then when the dog catches up and is right by my side, that's when I click and treat or yes, treat. Then if the dog runs ahead of me again, I change direction. So dogs finally will get tired of changing direction constantly and they're getting a treat when they're right by my side. So they kind of learn that that's the place to be. Another one that you can do is drop treats like right in front. So I have not named my pit bull yet, but if this dog was a puller, like I would drop a treat right in front and then take a step right in front, take a step. So it slows them down. It gets their nose focused to the ground and they're more focused on taking the treats than pulling. Another one that I did just Monday with a client is as soon as the dog started to pull, we did circles. So if the dog pulls this way, we would start doing a great big circle and we continue to do circles until the dog stopped pulling. As soon as the dog stopped pulling, we'd go straight. If the dog started pulling again, we would start doing our big circles. And it's boring for the dog. They don't want to keep doing circles and going around. And it's kind of like a big circle. So you're just like, the dog's pulling and you're just pulling them around and you keep going in a circle and finally they stop pulling and then you go straight. That actually worked for this dog, and this dog was a chronic puller. So those are 4 methods that you can do. If you do the drop the treat, at first I drop the treat every step, and then I will go to every 2 steps and then every 3 steps. If I go like 3 steps and the dog starts to pull, I change direction. And then as soon as the dog is right next to me, then I'll start dropping treats again and then start to spread out the treats. The important things to remember is that you can't let the dog win by pulling, because if they can pull you from point A to point B, they're going to pull, because then it's reinforcing for them. So try one of those 4 methods. Okay. Oh, yep. You've been to the vet, no UTI, and he marks versus accidents. So yeah, that's more of a behavioral thing. So I would still, like, if you catch him marking, I would say, hey, none of that. And then redirect him into doing something else, like go to your place, go do a downstay, anything like that. And especially around 2 years old, we start to see behavioral things. So it's important just to keep on top of it and always interrupt and redirect. Redirect him into doing something that's incompatible with marking. So like a downstay, or like a go to your place and do a downstay. But every time you catch him, so if you don't catch him marking, there's really nothing you can do. If you do catch him marking, I would just say, hey, no, we don't do that in here. And usually, and I don't yell, but usually just the tone of my voice will let my dog know, like, oh, okay, sorry. And then also catch your dog doing appropriate things. So if you can kind of read your dog's body language and you think, oh, I think he's about ready to mark right now, ask him to do something else before he can mark. So say like, hey, Rover, come do a sit stay or come do a down stay, and then reward that so that he learns that. Sometimes, especially around 2 years old, again, sometimes dogs are trying to figure out where they belong in the social hierarchy. So we will see things like marking. Sometimes we can see humping, other behavioral things. So make sure that your dog is on a schedule, because remember, dogs like structure and predictability. So make sure he's getting fed at the same time every day, getting exercise, mental enrichment. So nose work, snuffle mat, go hunt, things like that. Make sure that all of that is happening every day. Okay. Emily. Hi, Emily. I knew Emily would be here. She's here every week. She's my go-to person in case this doesn't work. Then she always sends me the questions, but I think we finally found a platform where this is going to work. So, hey, Emily. Hello from California. Make sure that you put your name down, because what I'm seeing is just Facebook user. So for me to enter you into the drawing, I have to have your name so that we know who to send the treats to. Okay, my puppy herds, attacks, and bites us. Okay. I'm assuming that it is a herding breed, and that is a thing. So a lot of herding breeds, so like Australian Shepherds, Heelers, Border Collies, they are going to herd. So it's really important that these dogs have a job, which means mental stimulation as well as physical. So they do need their walks, but things like doing agility, nose work. Again, you're probably sick of me talking about snuffle mats, but I think they're the greatest things ever invented. snuffle mats, flirt pole. So if I had a dog that was trying to herd and biting, first you want to like redirect. So if your dog comes up and bites, it's like, hey, we don't do that. And then redirect him into something else, but also recognize that it's part of their genetic makeup to do that. So getting that energy out some other way. I would have this dog be working for their food. So I would throw the food on the lawn and say, go hunt, and have that dog engage his nose and have to sniff out his food in the grass and forage for his own food. That's going to tire him out as well. Mental stimulation. So puzzle toys, treat dispensing toys like the Kong wobbler that I have here, things like that. If you can get him involved in, there's so many fun activities now, like Tri-Ball is a really good fun thing to do for herding dogs. It's where they like, I've never done it with my dogs, but I've seen it before. They have balls and they like have to push the ball like into a net or something, and then they have more balls. So it's like actually an activity for herding dogs. But instead of herding people or cattle or sheep, they herd balls. So yeah, try to find an activity for your dog to do that is going to help get that energy out. Amber, this is a good question. Do you find teaching an older dog harder than training a puppy, or easier? This is just me personally. I think it's easier to train older dogs. Only because once the puppyhood has gone out and I'm not dealing with biting and potty training, then I have more of their attention. Whereas when I work with puppies, it's like their attention span is like 5 minutes. And then all they want to do is like jump and bite and play. And don't get me wrong, I think puppies are adorable and I love working with puppies. But for me personally, I think older dogs are easier. I've rescued my last 8 dogs. And I've always gotten mine. I mean, Maddie was 5 when I got her. I've had 2-year-olds, 4-year-olds. I did get Jade at 1 year, and Daphne I actually got at 6 months. But I have a lot of puppy clients, but just for me personally, I think older dogs are easier to train. Sometimes though, you can have dogs that have, you also have to take into account their learning history. So if they have been allowed to exhibit bad habits for 6 years, you're not going to be able to train that out of them in a month. So the longer that a dog practices bad behavior, the longer it's going to take to fix it. So for example, I had a guy on Tuesday or yesterday say, I have a 6-month-old mini Australian Shepherd that I'm looking to rehome because now we have 3 kids and our dog barks constantly, and their dog is 6. So their dog has been allowed to bark at everything for 6 years. No training. They don't exercise, nothing. So they're looking to rehome the dog. And yeah, it's going to be harder to train that dog to not bark because that dog has been reinforced for doing this for 6 years. So it does depend, but I personally like older dogs. So, oh, in Singapore, it's Thursday, so it's actually tomorrow. Okay. Also, my dog paws at me when she wants me to run her, but sometimes it hurts. How can I teach her to keep her hands to herself? Okay, that's a good question. So I don't allow my dogs to demand stuff. So first, I don't subscribe to the alpha dominance theory at all. It's not a thing. It's been debunked a long time ago. But sometimes, like if Jade wants attention and I have my laptop on my lap and she'll come up and like paw at me, I'll just say like, oh, excuse me, I'm working right now. but I teach them what I want them to do instead. So it's like, okay, if you want me to take you for a walk, let's try sitting. And you sit while I put the leash on, and then we can go for a walk. So one thing you could do is if your dog paws at you, you can ignore, or you can just get up and walk away. So that's like negative punishment. Negative meaning you're taking your attention away because you don't want your dog to paw at you. And then teach the dog what you want them to do instead. So like sit politely and I will take you for a walk. Or you could teach your dog to bring you the leash. And then you can either say, okay, we'll go for a walk, or like, sorry, I'm busy right now. We'll go a little bit later. But always teach your dog what you want them to do instead. And I agree, pawing hurts. And sometimes Maddie, my 70-pound pit bull, will sometimes paw at me for attention, and it does hurt. And I'll just kind of say, ow, that hurts. And then I'll ask her to do something else, like sit or down, and then give her attention. So that's a good question. Do dogs ever stop eating poop without rewards? Well, I don't know, because I have a dog that eats poop, and I have tried everything to get her to stop eating poop. And short of, what I do now is I just go out and pick it up before she has a chance to eat it. There is stuff that you can put in their food that supposedly makes it gross, but my dog still eats it. So I was reading somewhere as to why dogs do this, and if I remember right, it can have something to do with sometimes them being taken away from their mom too early, or I can't remember. I'd have to go back and read it. There's a reason why they do it. So you could either teach a really good leave it, and then make sure that the reward you're giving is better than the poop, which in my opinion, anything would be better than that. But try leave it, and then giving a piece of chicken, and then cleaning up the poop so they can't eat it. So yeah, I've had 2 dogs now that are poop eaters, and it was really hard to get them to not do it. I just had to be on top of it all the time, pick it up before they could eat it, do a leave it. And I would usually say like, oh, leave it, yuck, that's so icky, yuck. And then give them something better for leaving it, and then I would pick it up. But yeah, that's a good question. I think if you could invent something that would really help dogs not eat poop, you would be a millionaire, because there's a lot of dogs that do it. And especially up where I live, we have like elk and deer and moose, and one place where I go hiking, they free range cows. And so my dogs are always trying to eat poop because to them it tastes good. Okay, Kayla. My 9-month-old terrier mix plays really rough and gets really vocal when playing with other dogs. How do you teach your puppy gentle play and boundaries? Okay, that's a good question, because part of it could be the terrier thing. I have 3 pit bull terriers, and I just know from having 8 pit bulls now that they play very rough and they're very vocal. And sometimes it scares other people. They're like, oh my gosh, your dog's killing my dog. I'm like, no, that's just the way they play. And I'm really good about like, body language and reading body language. But if you think your dog is too rough, then I'll just do like a quick timeout. So what I do is, if I think Jade is playing too rough, I'll just say, gotcha. And I'll just grab her collar, take her off, do a 1-minute timeout for her to like just chill out, and then let her go back in and play. Some dogs are fine with it. Some dogs play really well with rough players and some don't. And so if a dog seems to be like fearful, then I just don't let him play. But there are times when I do think she's getting too rough, and then I'll just give her, and she's not in trouble. They just need to like give themselves a little time out. The other thing I do is if you watch dogs play, sometimes they will give themselves a timeout. So they'll play, they'll be rough, and then they'll stop for a second to kind of breathe, and they'll just stand there. I always praise dogs for doing that. I'll say, oh, good dogs, good timeout, because they're basically giving themselves a timeout, and then they go back to playing. So it's important just to recognize different dogs have different play styles, and I think that's one reason why my dogs play really well with other dogs that play rough. And again, some dogs can handle that and some dogs don't. So sometimes it's just not a good match, but other times it's okay to give your dog like a 1 minute timeout and then let them go back. There have been some puppies in puppy class where they were so rough that we were giving timeouts like over and over and over again just to teach the dog like you're getting over threshold, you've got to mellow out, you've got to calm down a little bit, and then let them go back in and play. Okay, any advice for bringing a new puppy in a house full of young kids? Yes. So I actually have a client that I'm seeing this week whose dog bit one of the kids. So I think the most important thing is to teach kids about handling puppies, reading body language, learning that a growl is not a bad thing. A growl is just the dog saying, I don't like what you're doing, back away. And also, you know, puppies are going to bite and they're going to mouth. And so I teach kids to either walk away, or I teach them to like be a big, strong tree, folding your branches. Because a lot of kids will scream and flail like, oh my gosh, this dog's biting me. And all that does is amp up the dog. They think you're playing. Kids have high-pitched voices, and in dog language, that is an invitation to play. So if they're screaming and yelling because the puppy's biting them, the puppy's going to just do it more. Because in dog language, it's like, oh, they want to play. They like this. So if the puppy's biting, I teach kids like be a big, strong oak tree, fold in your branches, and be really, really still. You can also teach kids to walk away. I always like to teach kids, like there are certain times when you don't bother puppies. One is when they're eating and one is when they're sleeping. So if you startle a dog that's asleep, sometimes dogs can bite. You don't want to teach kids to go near dogs that are eating. That's a good way for them to like start resource guarding. So I always have a rule that, you know, no kids around the dogs while they're eating. I also like to have a safe place for the dog to go. So I have a crate in my living room, and when I have like piano or guitar students come over, I always tell kids, if the dogs are out and want to interact, you are free to pet them, play with them, whatever. If they go in their crate, that is their space, and that means they don't want to be bothered. And so that means you just leave them alone. So I would make sure the puppy has a place where they can go and just kind of chill. And I kind of teach kids like, okay, if you have a bedroom, you know, that's your space, and you don't like your siblings coming in and taking your things. So puppies also have their little room. And if they go in there, then that means that they want some space. So I think it's really important to teach the kids like proper puppy manners. But yeah, that'll be fun. And one thing I do with kids is I get them engaged in, instead of saying like, oh, okay, you can't do this, you can't do this, you can't do this. I'll say, hey, how would you guys like to help with the training? So whenever, so like now it's going to be your turn to put the leash on and take the dog out to go potty. or as soon as you hear me click, you're going to give your puppy a treat. Or like, you can really help me teach this dog not to jump. So when the dog jumps on you, I want you to just turn your back. So if you can get the kids engaged and think that they're really helping with the training, then they're a lot more willing to do it rather than giving them a lot of rules as to what not to do. So I actually have little cards and I teach them, okay, is this a happy dog or not a happy dog? Would you approach this dog? What is this dog saying? So I kind of make it into a game, and then they think it's fun. Okay, how to help her not bite us while playing, and especially when someone new comes. She jumps on them and bites in a playful way. Yeah, so when somebody new comes, I always have to tell people coming in, if Jade jumps on you, I want you to turn your back and not give her attention until she's got 4 feet on the floor. Or ask her to sit. So if she's sitting, you can pet her and say hi. If she jumps, I want you to turn your back. I will also step in and say, Jade, off, and ask her to sit. And then I tell people, okay, now she's sitting, now you can pet her. I would do the same thing if a dog starts biting. Just tell people to turn their back and ignore them. And if you have to physically like pick your puppy up, put them in a brief timeout in a crate with a toy, you can do that and then bring them back out to say hi when they're calm. Also make sure that you are rewarding calm behavior. So if your puppy is greeting somebody nice, calmly, then make sure that you praise them. So I used to have to do this at work. I've told this story before, but when I was teaching Jade not to jump, people would come in and she'd be sitting and they'd ignore her. And so it's like you wait for the dog to do something that you don't want. And it's like, hey, she's sitting nicely. Say hi to her. So catch your dog doing what you want and make sure you reward and reinforce that. If your dog's doing something that you don't want, such as jumping, biting, you can ignore that behavior or replace it. So you could replace jumping and biting with a sit and a hand target, because hand targeting is done with a closed mouth. They just touch their nose to your hand. And so I teach puppies to say hi to people that way, like sit and touch. And then it's like, oh, good job. You get a treat. I'll pet you. Things like that. Okay. I love this next question because I went through this. I'm slowly introducing my 10-week-old German Shepherd pup to our cat. He gets too rough with the cat. How do I correct this behavior? I would do this the same way that I work with puppies that are playing. If he starts to get too rough with the cat, a lot of times, most cats will correct dogs. My dogs have only had to get swatted once, and now they have a very healthy respect for the cat. If your dog's not taking the cue from the cat, though, then I would give the dog a timeout. Same thing. The dog's not in trouble. Just, take their collar, say, gotcha, timeout, and just take them off for 1 minute, let them chill out, and then let them go back to play. I also think it's really important to give the cat as a place to go where he can get away from the dog. So, I have a cat condo for my cat, so he can go up in his cat condo and the dogs can't reach him. You can do that with those like cat trees so your cat can jump up and get out of the way. But you can also teach the dog like, just the engage, disengage, or the look at that. So it's like look at the dog or look at the cat, click and treat, but for calm. So you're calm, you're just looking at the cat, click and treat, and then get slower. I think it's great when dogs and cats can play together. My cat will not play with my dogs, but they coexist. But a lot of times the cats will correct if it's too rough. And if your cat or if your dog doesn't take that cue, then be an advocate for the cat and give the dog a timeout. Okay, my Victoria, my 15-month-old Jack Russell is very vocal. When we walk out the front door, she lets the whole neighborhood know she's out. Horrible screeching, scream, bark like she's getting murdered. How can this be corrected? Oh, that's an interesting one. So what I would do is see if you can get your dog's attention. So when you walk out the door, do like a watch me or a touch, because again, it's done with a closed hand, and then reward that. You can also teach like a quiet. So if your dog starts barking, just say quiet and then wait for that, like bark, 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 take a breath, and then I mark like either yes or click the quiet. You could also, if you go out and the dog starts barking, come back in and just be like, okay, if you're going to bark, we're not going to go for a walk. We only go for a walk when you're quiet. And then try just going out the door, do a watch me, do a touch. Dogs that bark a lot too, you could teach your dog to carry something in her mouth. So teach her to carry a ball in her mouth or a toy or something like that so that she's not barking. So we do that a lot with dogs that constantly like to pick up sticks or chew on leashes. We just teach them to carry something in their mouth while they're on a walk, and it kind of takes care of that. And it also depends on why she's barking. Is it like stimulus in her environment? Is it a learned behavior? If it is, then we want to teach her something else to do. So like, you know, a watch me, a quiet, a touch. So teach her something else that you want her to do. And when you are going out and she's quiet, make sure that you reward that. And you can even name it like good quiet or good calm or good chill or whatever you want. So catch her being quiet. Mark that and treat it, and then when you go outside, say, you know, quiet. It's quiet time now. And then if you can get her, so we do this in reactive dog class a lot, where we start to add in stimulus. And one of the first things I teach the owners is how to get their dog to focus on them and look at them instead of the other dogs and the other things in their environment. So you could try that. Okay, every time I fill it up, she paws at it to knock all the food on the floor. Okay, so this must be the dog that I would honestly just feed the dog on the floor. If she's going to paw at it and knock it over, I would just feed her on the floor. Feed her in a paper plate or on a plate or something that she can't tip over. I mean, it could just be a game to her. So yeah, I would try the snuffle mat or just feeding her on the floor and letting her eat off of the floor. And that will probably take care of her knocking the food bowl over. Anita, I have a dog whistle, but I don't know when and how to use it. Okay, are you talking about the high-pitched ones that only the dog hears? Because I used to use that with my search and rescue dog. I actually haven't used one in a really long time. The way that I did it, and I don't know if this is the correct way or not, but the way I did it is I had my dog on a long line, and so I would blow the whistle and then reel in the dog with the leash and then reward. And then I would let the dog go out again. And I actually started with a 15-foot line, and then I did a 30-foot line. So I would let the dog go out of my view. I would blow the whistle. And then if the dog didn't come on her own, then I would reel in and then reward. So I paired the whistle with coming back. And I'm assuming that's what you're using it for, is for recall. And so that's how I did it. But I did teach it on leash first so that if the dog didn't come back, I could reel the dog in and teach them that that's what when they hear the whistle, it means you come back, and then I would reward them. That's how I did it. I don't know if that's correct or not, but it worked. I mean, it worked for my dog. Eventually, when she started coming back a lot, like every time, then I started to let her off leash. And we didn't use the long line, and I would let her get further and further out. And by then, we had reinforced it so much with reeling her in with the leash that she would come back every time. So, yeah, give it a try. Let me know how it works. I still have my dog whistle. I've actually thought about using that, especially with Jade. Jade is one that doesn't come very well to the word come, so I don't say it if she's off leash, but if I whistle, she will come. So she actually does come to me like whistling with my mouth. Okay. My 6-month-old puppy gets overly excited when she sees people on walks and starts pulling the leash with all his strength. What should I do? So I like to teach a sit and a wait. So we do this in CGC class a lot. One of the criteria for the CGC is that a dog has to sit and wait while a person approaches. So you could practice, if your dog sees somebody, put them in a sit and a wait. If they start to pull towards the person, then you turn and go the other way. Or if you have a helper, say, as long as my dog is sitting nicely beside me, you can walk up. Hello. Hi, Jade. Then you can walk up, and if the dog gets up and pulls towards you, then the person backs away. So if the dog waits, then that makes the person come up, and then they can say hi. If the dog pulls towards the person, it makes the person go away. Let me take her leash off so that it's not rolling around. She's been out eating bones with the staff here where I have my office. So yeah, impulse control. So sit and wait. If your dog pulls, either you turn and take your dog away from the person, or ask them to step away if your dog doesn't wait. Another thing you can do is the look at that. So as soon as your dog sees a person, start from a distance to where your dog can just notice the person and not pull. And when they just look at them, click and treat. And do that several times, and then slowly decrease the distance. Then if your dog starts to pull, then I just say, oh, let's go. And then we turn and go further away. So they only get to say hi if they are calm and waiting and not pulling. So pulling towards them is going to make the person go further away or make you go further away. Great question. And we see that a lot with puppies and adolescents. Okay, I'm having a really hard time getting this to scroll. Okay. Okay, how can I get my 4-month-old puppy to settle in the house? She gets plenty of exercise, but will only relax and sleep in her crate. So I've talked about this before when I answer Facebook questions. There's a relaxation protocol by Karen Overall, and I think if you just Google Karen Overall's protocol for relaxation, and it might even be a resource on the Pupford site, because I do believe I've shared that with them. But it actually teaches a dog to like go to your place and be calm. And you literally start with 5 seconds. So 5 seconds, you reward your dog on the mat. So good things happen on the mat. That's where we want them to learn how to lay down. And then 10 seconds, and then 15 seconds. And then you start to add in distractions, like clap your hands, turn around. So there's like 17 stages, and you don't go to the next stage until your dog can stay calm. Like, okay, let's see if I can do this without her moving. So see, Jade over there is like resting on her mat. So that took a bit of doing, but we practiced that a lot, and we practiced go to your mat, and then stay calm, and then she gets rewarded. Now, right now, where she's choosing to be on her mat, and she's actually chewing on a bone, but I would intermittently like toss a treat over on the mat because she's laying there being calm. So it is something that you have to teach them. So if you Google relaxation protocol, Karen overall, it should pop up. If it doesn't, you can email me, Tracy with an I at pupford.com. I'm happy to send it to you. Just work on it like 5 minutes a day. And then during the day, like I said, if you see your dog laying down and being calm, reward them for that. So catch your dog being calm and make sure that you reward them for being calm so they know that that's what you want them to do. Really good question. And sometimes when I need my dogs just to be calm, like I'll give them a bully stick or a yak chew on their bed so that they, for one, they learn to associate like, oh, this is where I get the bully sticks and this is where I get the yummy stuff. If I pull out bully sticks, Maddie will automatically go to her crate and her bed because she knows that that's where she gets hers. Jade will go to her bed. Daphne doesn't really have a bed because she just sleeps on the other dog's beds, but they kind of all go to their place because they know that that's where that happens. So yeah, really good. And the other thing you can do is if you have a dog that's seems to have a lot of energy, try doing some more mental stimulation and nose work. That can really help calm a dog down. So if I'm with a client and we spend time doing snuffle mat or nose work, or we play with the flirt pole, and just training, like by the end of an hour session, which is too long for a puppy to go train straight, but we talk a lot in between, but the puppies are dead asleep by the time I leave. So doing short little training sessions during the day. Another one of my favorites is I save my Pupford boxes, my Amazon boxes, and I might scatter them around and put a treat in one of them and then have the dogs like find it. So they have to like sniff the boxes and try to find the one with the treat in it. So anything that engages their brain and engages their nose is going to help tire them out as well. So trying to do that. Okay, let me write down a couple more names. We have Trudy from Michigan. Karen, why does my dog always drop and roll around on the ground or run up against trees during our walks? I was working with a dog once that was going to be a service dog, and he would do that. Like he would just stop and lay down. And I think it's just because he didn't want to go, or he didn't understand what we wanted him to do. So I usually just interrupt and I'll just say, hey, we're not rolling around right now. And then I'll just give the cue to like, let's walk or let's go or heel or whatever you're doing. I don't know why he's running up against trees, to be honest. I have not heard of that before. It could be a smell. It could be, sometimes dogs will like roll over to scratch their back or stuff like that, or they'll rub up against trees to itch or scratch. But other than that, this dog that I was working with would just like lay down and roll over. So, and it's just because like, he didn't want to work. Sometimes I'd give him a little timeout. So I'd be like, all right, let's take a timeout. And then we're going to go walk again. So just try to like redirect your dog into what. Another thing that I use a lot is hand targeting, because I can get a dog to go from point A to point B. So instead of being like, okay, stop rolling around on the ground, stop doing that, I'll just, hey, touch. And so then it kind of refocuses their brain and it gives them something to do. It's like, oh yeah, I know that cue. I'm going to go touch your hand, get a treat. So I can get them up and moving, and then we kind of start that. So you could try that too. Deb, my 4-month-old golden retriever devours her food quickly. Oh, that sounds like Jade, my dog. Let's see. She eats it slower, but still swallows it. How can we teach her to chew? Have you tried... Geez, I'm not sure I know the answer to that. How do you teach a dog to chew? I mean, Jade eats her food really quick, and then she wants to go eat her sister's food. That's why I feed her in a snuffle mat. You might also try a slow feeder. So the ones that are like circular, and then you can spread the food out. I don't know that is necessarily going to teach her to like slow down. I mean, you could potentially like hand feed your dog like 1 or 2 at a time, and see if you can get your dog to slow down and actually chew the food rather than just swallow it. See if you can get them to slow down that way. Honestly, I'll have to research that because I'm not sure. I've had dogs that eat quickly before, but they at least chew their food. I just slow them down with a slow feeder or a snuffle mat. But try those things, and if it doesn't work, let me know, and I might have to do some research or ask another trainer if they've ever seen that. It's a good question. Okay, what do you do to calm your dog 1-year-old when you need to put him in his crate, leaving for a few hours? If I need to put them in a crate, like I have a cue, like go to your crate, and then I will usually give them something to do in the crate, such as a bully stick or a stuffed Kong. So I stuff it with peanut butter and freeze it. So then they are more focused on licking the inside out of the Kong. And since it's frozen, it takes longer. A yak chew, something like that that's going to take longer for them to devour is a good way to calm them. Give them something else to do. Kind of a different direction sometimes, and people that know me know I'm kind of a freak about my dogs, but when I have to crate them, I leave the TV on for my dogs. I don't know if they really listen to, it's usually Little House on the Prairie or Dr. Phil, because I don't get a lot of stations where I live. But I turn it on just for the noise, and but you could turn on music. Dogs like soft piano music, things like that. That can help calm them. You can also try some essential oils like lavender, things like that. But I've found that giving them something to do in the crate is a really good way to just help them calm down. I love this next question because I dealt with the same thing this week with a client. Actually, yesterday. Yeah. How do I stop my 9-month-old poodle from humping other dogs or guests that come over? So, humping is not always, so humping is just like over arousal. It's not always a sexual thing, but especially at 9 months, it's a lot of times it can be a dog trying to figure out his place in the social hierarchy. So when new people come over or new dogs come over, he's trying to assert like, okay, this is my place. Like I'm gonna hump your leg, or I'm gonna hump the dog. So I always teach a dog. So what we did with this dog is we taught an off, and then we taught the dog what we wanted them to do instead. So these people didn't have another dog in their house. Their dog is very reactive, so can't be around other dogs. But this dog would constantly hump people that came in. So we taught the dog to go to your place. We started doing the relaxation protocol that I just talked about because it's over arousal, over excitedness. And and then the dog can come out and calmly greet people. If he started to hump, we would interrupt, put him in a downstay, and then people could interact and say hi when the dog was in a downstay. So we were actually only giving attention when the dog was calm. And then it's important for you as an owner to interrupt that and just say, hey, no humping. Sit, stay, or down stay, or go to your place, and then rewarding for calm behavior. So we actually practice, like I practiced standing up, moving around, and when the dog was calm, I would say hi to her. I would give her a treat. Important with these dogs that you don't, and this is hard for me because I love this dog. This is an old English bulldog, and she is like the cutest thing. And so it's really hard for me not to come up and go, oh, Lola, you're so cute. I've missed you. And so because that gets her overly aroused, and then she just wants to hump. So instead, I just have to say like, oh, good girl, Lola. And I soften my tone and I'm calm so that I'm radiating calm energy. And then if she looked like she was going to start humping, I would turn my back, walk away. The owner would say, hey, Lola, sit, stay, or go to your place. If he's humping other dogs, also, I'm assuming this is a male. If your dog is starting to hump other dogs and people, it might be time to get him neutered if he's not already neutered, because that can help. But then working on that relaxation protocol, teach him how you want him to greet other dogs. So if he does start to hump, it's like, oh, time out, and you take him off. With guests, it's like go to your place or do a downstay. One thing that these people recognized is that in the beginning, when their dog did that, they thought it was funny, and so they laughed and kind of let the dog hump. Well, then it becomes a learned behavior. So now the dog thinks that that's how she's supposed to greet people. So now we've got to fix that. So just like asking people to help with the training. So it's like, you know, my dog kind of has this bad habit of wanting to hump. So please turn your back, walk away, ask the dog to sit, and teach them how you want them to appropriately greet other people. But yeah, I would just step in, do a timeout, or interrupt. Let's see. How long should a puppy be in timeout? Okay, so I'm assuming this is like puppy playtime, Kimberly. And how do I reintroduce him back into the circle? So when I do puppy classes and I do a timeout, I do it for 1 minute. So I just do a quick gotcha. We take him out. We do a 1 minute timeout, and then we just let them go. So if you have them leashed, you can undo the leash or let go of their collar and let them go back in. If they immediately go back in and start like humping or being inappropriate or playing too rough, then we do another timeout, 1 minute, and then I just let them go and let them, that's how I reintroduce them. Where I do puppy class, there's a door, so I have people take them out, because it's not fair for your dog to be in a timeout when other puppies are running up to him. So I actually have them go out, hold on to their dog for 1 minute, and then they can bring their dog back in, just let them go, and then they go back in and play. So usually they don't need it for more than 1 minute, but you may have to do multiple timeouts if you need them to. Okay. Deanna, let me write your name down for drawing. Deanna from Mountain Home, Arkansas. My 18-month-old lab started getting up an hour earlier in the morning, and I am worried he will do that when he stays with the person who boards him. All I know that has changed is the vet had me take him off puppy food and go to adult food and less of it. Yeah, so I mean, it could be a diet change. I would just give it some time. Also, are you crate training? Because if you crate a dog, most dogs are not going to go to the bathroom where they sleep. So crating a dog can sometimes teach them how to hold it a little bit longer. And then you can let them out. I'm assuming that if the dog is boarding with somebody, usually when I'm boarding dogs, I have them sleep in a crate. Just because my dogs sleep on the bed and there's not room for another one. And knowing that a new dog is coming in the house, I don't expect them to know where the dog door is or, know the rules of the house. So they do sleep in a crate. So I'm assuming that if somebody's boarding your dog, they're going to have them in a crate. So I would start crating your dog at night and just seeing if you can start stretching out that time, even if it's like 5 minutes and then 10 minutes, things like that. I mean, you don't want, if a dog really has to go, you don't want them to have an accident in their crate, but it could be the change in diet. Sometimes when you change food, especially if you don't change over gradually, the dog's going to have to go to the bathroom more. So yeah, try that. If you're not crating, try crating and see if that helps at night. And then usually if I'm boarding a dog, I just kind of know that all dogs are different and I might have to get up earlier with a dog than I'm used to. And most people that board dogs are just used to that and they understand. Okay, what do you recommend for puppies when they play bite? Okay, good question. In fact, I just saw a question down here. I'm going to answer these together. How do I get my 8-week puppy to stop lunging and biting my kids? So, I talked about this earlier, but biting for puppies is normal. It's how they learn bite inhibition. The first time they bite, I redirect them to a toy. So like a rope toy, a Kong, something else. If they go right back to biting people, then it's a calm, pick them up, put them in the crate with a toy so that we don't make a negative association with the crate for 1 minute. Let them out. If they go right back to biting, then you calmly pick them up, put them in the crate, cover the crate, and they get a longer timeout because they need time to decompress. I also have kids, a lot of kids will scream, they'll flail their arms, and to a dog thinks that that's play, especially because kids have higher pitched voices. So I teach kids to turn their back, walk away. I'll tell them, I want you to be a tree, fold in your branches, look at the sky, and be really still. And if the dog doesn't get reinforced for biting, a lot of times he's going to stop. And then as a parent, you can step in and be like, oh, hey, you know what? We don't bite the kids, but here's your toy, and you can chew on the toy. Also, it's really important that all of the kids are on the same page, because I'll use my brother as a good example. When they had their first puppy, he and my nephews loved to play really rough with the dog, and they let the dog bite them and chew, and my niece and sister-in-law didn't, but that's confusing for the dog. So then the dog thinks it's okay. So all of the kids, I often hear with clients, it's like, well, one of my kids plays really rough with the puppy, so now the puppy's biting the other kids. Well, yeah, of course. So everybody has to be consistent and tell the kids what you want them to do. Either like put their hands up, walk away, go in another room, close the door, redirect the puppy with another toy, put him in a brief timeout in the kennel, in a crate with a toy, things like that. I sometimes, like with Jade, I've taught her like an easy, because I don't have kids, so I don't have to worry about this. And I do kind of play rough with her, but if she bites too hard, I'll say, "Ooh, easy." And then she knows to like back off a little bit. But if you have kids, I like to have a no teeth on flesh rule ever. So that's where you redirect them. Okay, and speaking of growling, oh, this is a really good question. When puppies growl when you play tug with their toys, is that okay? Nope, that is totally fine. What I do is when I play tug, I always start the game and I stop the game. And when I'm playing and they're growling and tugging, that is totally normal. If a dog starts like rebiting, so dogs will like rebite to get better grip. If they start to get up closer to my skin, then I'll say, oh, game over. And then I stop because I don't want them to ever bite skin. But yeah, it's normal for them to growl when they play tug. That's totally normal. If you think it's getting like if you think the puppy's getting overly aroused and it's starting to not sound like a play growl, then I would teach like a drop it or like, oh, game over, and then stop and end on a good note. But it is totally normal. You guys are welcome. I love doing this. This is my favorite time of the week. So I'm glad that you guys enjoy these. I love answering your questions. Okay, puppy who steals things and likes the fun of being chased. Okay, so puppies love the chase game. And if you chase them, they're going to run away. So one thing that I do is I will run the other way and try to get the puppy to chase me. There have been times when I have gotten down on the ground. In fact, when I was hiking, I have one dog who's afraid of the car. And so as soon as she sees the car, she's like, oh, I'm going the other way. And it happened before I had a chance to get a leash on her. So to get her back, I got down on the ground and I started like digging like, oh my gosh, look what I found. I found the coolest thing. And I acted like I had just found the best treasure in the world. And she came up to see what I was digging. And then I was able to calmly put a leash on her. And for dogs who steal things, I teach them to trade. So let's say, what do I have here? I have crackers and a sucker. So let's say that the dog grabs a sock or something. So, oh, Jay just heard the word sucker. See, you can see her little face right here. So I'm not really going to give this to her, but let's say she has the sucker in her mouth. I'm going to show her something of equal or higher value. So I would show her like a treat or crackers or whatever. And I would say, drop it and show her this. And then when she drops this to get this, that's when I mark it. I'll say, yes, give her this. Now, when I'm teaching trades, I will let her eat this and then I give her back this. But when I'm teaching trades, it's something, both objects are something that the dog can have. So let's say this is a bully stick. And then I might offer her a yak chew and say, drop it. She drops the bully stick, gets the yak chew. And then I might trade back and say, drop it. And like, ooh, here, you can have your bully stick back. So to the dog, it's like, when I drop something, not only do I get something better, but I get my original item back. Then there are times when I don't give the original item back. They just get like, oh, drop the sock, but here, I'll give you this really yummy treat if you drop the sock. And then they get that, and then I take the sock. Because we don't want dogs to eat socks because they can get obstructed. So always teach trades for dogs that like to steal things, and try to avoid chasing because they are just going to run. So grab something better and say, oh, but look what I have. Like, you may have just stole that, but look what I have. I have something so much better. And then you can turn and walk away or get down and pretend like you're eating it. Get the dog to come to you and then do a trade. Yep. 11-month-old Havapoo who likes to steal things and runs away. That's because dogs love the chase game. So when I'm teaching recall, I actually will run backwards and get the dog to run to me because they like the chase game too. So instead of me chasing them, I get them to chase me. How do I get my two puppy to let us know when it's time to go potty. So there's a couple things you could do. When I'm potty training, I will always take a dog out the same door, so that they get used to knowing, and I'll usually say, okay, let's go potty, time to go potty, and we'll go out the door. And then the dog will eventually like go to the door and scratch or let you know that they need to go out. I've had some clients use a bell. You can either do the ones that hang from the door. And then the way that I teach that is, okay, so I'm going to use a pen. So this is the bell. I will say, let's go potty. And here's the bell hanging from the door. I'll put my hand behind the bell and I'll say touch. And so when they touch my hand, the bell rings. And then we go outside and they go potty. Then I reward them for going potty. And so we do that every time. Like, okay, let's go potty, hand behind the bell. So I teach them to either paw at the bell or touch the bell with their nose. So they start to associate. We go potty, I ring the bell, we go outside and go potty. And that's worked for a lot of my clients. I've had some use the buzzer that their dog just steps on, to let them know that they need to go out and go potty. So there's lots of different ways that you can do it. The main thing is to be consistent, and I just make sure that we go out the same door all the time so the dog will start to go back out to that door when they need to go. Oh, I love this next question because I do this. I mark my dog's correct behavior with yes. Can I add marking with a clicker and eventually alternate between the two? Absolutely. So when I'm teaching a new behavior, I start with the clicker, just because it's just personal preference. I like the clicker, but I also use yes because I don't always have a clicker, and I do alternate between the two. So I do teach the clicker, and then sometimes I will click and say yes at the same time. A lot of times just because it's habit, so I'll click yes. And so then if they hear the yes without the clicker, they still know that it's a marker. So yes, you can absolutely start to add a clicker in. What I would do is, if you're already using yes, like ask your dog to sit and say yes and click at the same time and then treat. And then eventually sometimes just click and sometimes say yes. So that's a great question. Okay, how should we introduce my new puppy that I'm getting next month to my 10-month-old puppy? Oh, you're brave. 2 puppies. So the way that I like to do it is have them meet on like neutral territory, and go for a walk. So just go for a parallel walk. Let them kind of sniff each other, get used to each other. And then when you come back from the walk, then you can like bring them both in the house. You'll probably want to let the new puppy kind of explore. I do a lot of supervision when I bring a puppy in for like board and train. I always feed that puppy separate because puppies don't understand the rules, and I don't want them like going up and trying to eat my dog's food. My dogs won't hurt them, but they'll correct them. But I just feed the new puppy in a totally different area behind a baby gate. So I feed them totally separate, and then just start to do fun things with them. So like walks, games. You can do like the go hunt outside, but I put each dog on a leash so that there's no fighting over the food. But then the dogs learn, oh, like this is so much fun having this puppy here because we get to go outside and play the go hunt game. So just always making it really fun to have the other puppy around. I think if you have a 10-month-old, it's going to be pretty easy transition. And then just make sure all of their interactions are positive. And if the new puppy starts to get like too rough or overbearing, I mean, it is okay for the 10-month-old to correct, but we don't want anything like scary or too like overbearing, or or like aggressive, especially if your new puppy is going to be like going through one of their fear periods. So I supervise a lot. We do lots of walks on leash. I always supervise play sessions, just to keep everything safe and keep everything good and upbeat. And if I think that one dog is getting tired, so like I have a 3-year-old and a 2-year-old, and sometimes puppies are just so overbearing. And if I think like my 3-year-old is getting sick of the puppy, then I'll just like end the play session, separate them, let one take a nap, things like that. Okay, we've got time for a few more. Emily, yes, I didn't, but I did get you down in the drawing, if that's what you meant. Okay. How can I redirect my 8-year-old rescue pup to not bark at people and other dogs while on our walks? Okay, so for that, I would do the engage, disengage. So first thing you can do is teach your dog like a watch me. I do that by, let's see if I have any treats in here. I need to reload. Oh, Jade heard the word treat. So I bring the treat up to my eyes, and as soon as the dog looks at me, I click and treat. And I'll do that several times. Then I'll start to move the treat over, and the dog might be focused on the treat, but they'll eventually look at me like, why are you not giving this to me? And as soon as they look at me, I click and treat, so that they learn, oh, okay, it's when I give you eye contact and not look at the treat. And then I will add the word like watch me. So then you can say like watch me. Here you go. So getting your dog to focus on you. And then I would start doing the look at that. So start at a distance, and as soon as your dog sees a person or another dog, if your dog immediately starts to bark, then I just say, let's go, and turn and go the other way. Because if they're already barking, they're already over threshold, and at that point, they're not going to be able to learn. So I always start at a distance. You can go to like a Home Depot or a shopping center and park way out in the boonies to where your dog's not going to be super close to people. So you can start at a distance. And then as soon as your dog sees the person, it's like, oh, look at that person, click treat. I do use the clicker for this. So look at that dog, click treat. We practice this a lot actually at dog parks, but we start at a distance, like from the parking lot. And as soon as the dog sees a dog, click treat. If they start to react or they can't focus or take treats, then we increase distance. If they can, then we'll do that. And eventually, when the dog hears the click, they learn to disengage. And it's like, oh, I heard the clicker. Where's my treat? And then eventually they learn, oh, when I see a dog, I disengage, look at mom. Like, where's my treat? Then you can slowly start to decrease distance. I decrease distance one step at a time. One mistake I see in a lot of my reactive dog classes is that if I say, okay, go one step closer, they'll go 5 steps closer. Those 5 steps can put your dog over threshold. It's important just to go one step. So one step and then start there. Look at the dog, look at the person, click treat. So we teach them to like engage, disengage. I've seen the chart, people post this chart all the time. I'm sure you can Google it. Just put in engage, disengage, or look at that. So you teach them a different behavior. So instead of barking, I just want you to notice them and stay calm, and I will reward you for that. And if you look at them and then disengage and look at me, I'm going to reward you for that. And then you can slowly get closer, closer, closer. Okay, let's see. How do you get a dog to stop humping another? He is fixed and he wants to do it to our older female. So it could be, again, one dog trying to figure out where he fits in the social hierarchy. So depending on how old your dogs are, it could be that the one that's humping is kind of trying to be like higher up than the older dog on that social hierarchy. I always interrupt. So if I see a dog humping another dog, it's like, hey, we don't do that. And then take them off. If you have to give them a brief timeout, because again, it can also be over arousal, or, you know, put them in a downstay or go to your place or teach them what you want them to do instead. So I always interrupt and just, and then I'll let them go back to play. And as soon as one starts to hump the other again, it's like, hey, that's not going to happen. Off. And I'm not yelling. I'm not getting mad. I'm just interrupting and redirecting. So it can be over arousal. It can be them trying to figure out their place on the social hierarchy. So it's really important that they view you as their leader. So super important to on a schedule, like feeding, walking, we're going to train, we're going to do nose work, so that they look to you for everything. And then, you know, dogs will still try to like figure out their social hierarchy within themselves. But if you see that, I just interrupt and redirect. Okay, I'm going to answer one more, and then we'll have the drawing. Okay, my 8-month-old mini Aussie Doodle is afraid to go up and down the stairs to our apartment. I spent hours over the last 6 months with high-value treats trying to get her to go up the stairs. Okay, so I had the same thing with Jade at an apartment, and it's because the stairs were different. Oh, they were like grading material that she didn't like. So what I had to do was go really slow, and I would put a treat right on the bottom, let her eat it, and then I would put it on the next one and just let her go up one step, and then she could go back down. And we did that several times. And then I put it up on the next one. So we literally went one step at a time. And you said that you've tried it with good treats. I would just keep doing that, but always let the dog go back down if they want, especially if it's a fear thing. So just, even if you have to stay at the bottom step several times, take a treat, go back down, take a treat, go back down. And then maybe do one step more and put 3 or 4 treats, like a jackpot. So like, oh, if you go up one more, you get like this whole stack of chicken or this whole stack of hot dogs. And then let the dog go back down and do that over and over, and then go one more. So I don't know of another way. I think what you're doing is right. So just continue to do that, but allow your dog to go back down if they're not comfortable. So we don't ever want to force them to do it. One time, I have to admit, I was going to a client's and I had Jade, and she didn't want to do the stairs, so I carried her. It's like, okay, I don't have time to train right now, so I'm just going to carry you. But then afterwards, I did have time. So then we went slowly, and I did a treat on every single step. And I went very slowly with her and took the time to go down. And it was more that she didn't like the feel of the stairs under her feet. It was like this weird grading material. So, yeah, I think you're doing it right. Just stick with it. Sometimes it takes a while. Okay. Thank you, everybody, for joining us tonight. This was super fun. Okay. For the drawing, tonight's winner is Karen Drum from Connecticut. So congratulations, Karen. You can email Pupford at hello@pupford.com and let them know what kind of training treats you want. And I will email them as well and let them know that you are the winner. You get your choice of, these happen to be chicken. You can do rabbit, beef. They have the new rabbit flavor now if you haven't tried them. Salmon. I use salmon a lot. So congratulations, Karen, and we will see you next Wednesday night, same time. I do try to get on the Facebook community once a day, at least 20 minutes to 30 minutes to try and answer training questions. So if I didn't get to you tonight, I'll try to answer questions. If you want any of the handouts that I talked about, like the relaxation protocol or the engage disengage, feel free to email me at tracy@pupford.com, and I am happy to send you those handouts. So thanks a lot again for joining us, and we'll see you next week.